earlier this year, I had a moment where we received our prospectus from Vanguard and we're looking through it. And I realized as I was looking at like the 10-year sort of look back as they were talking about performance, I was like, for the very first time, I could say, oh, this is when I bought, right? Because every other time you're kind of just sort of projecting, you're thinking about it. But at this point, it was the very first time that I could look back and say, wow, like we've actually been investing for over a decade now.
Right.
And obviously it's been a very great decade for investors. But I'm curious, because you've been investing, I would imagine, for multiple decades at this point. What's changed in your, like, what do you remember probably from the early days of when you started investing versus today?
Well, for me personally, the biggest thing that changed is I finally got smart enough to embrace index investing. That took me a long time. The irony, Julien, is that I started investing in 1975, and that's the same year that Jack Bogle came out with the first index fund.
Mm-hmm.
And so theoretically, I could have gotten on that train just as it was first leaving the station, but
Wow.
I didn't know about it at the time, but I did hear about it 10 years later, like in the mid '80s, and I just, like a lot of people that I talk to today, I just had trouble wrapping my head around the concept that you could outperform without being active. And so it took me another 10, 15 years before I wised up. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing for me. And of course, then, just from the technology point of view, and when I was first investing, I was buying stocks through a stockbroker. That was, 5-6% commission coming and going. I mean, it's just incredible. So yeah, it's so much better and easier today than it was.
So this was 1990?
Which was 1990.
Well, I was trying to do the math in my head about when you decided to fully embrace the idea of index fund investing.
Oh, more like 2000. So
okay,
and I don't remember exactly, but just very roughly I started investing in 75. As I recall, probably around 85, I had a friend who was in the business who had started talking about, efficient markets and indexing and that kind of thing. And, when I hear people arguing with me about the subject, it's my voice in my head that I hear, right? Because I made all those arguments back in the day. So it was probably in 85 I started hearing about it. And then, another maybe 95 at the earliest, but probably closer to 2000, and then I still, let's see, when was the last, I think I still owned one or two individual stocks as late as 2013, maybe. So even once I had indexing doing most of the heavy lifting, I have the disease, right? I think I've broken the addiction at this point. It's been about a decade since I've owned individual stocks, but it was tough because if you pick a stock and it works, that's intoxicating. I mean, There are a few things in my experience that are more intoxicating. And so it literally was, I don't want to overstate it. It's not like being addicted to heroin or something, but it is a kind of addiction that I had to overcome. And I still get tempted, every now and again. I'll be reading some story about some company and I'm maybe I ought to take it in. Step back off the ledge. I was like, don't pick up that drink.
Cookbooks and finance books have a lot in common. They're instructional without being preachy, and the best ones convince you to leave the pages and experience what you read in real life. On the second day of our trip, we had lunch at Turkey and the Wolf. It's a culinary experience for people who like nice things but hate pretentiousness. When you walk in, there's no one to seat you. And as we made our way to our table, Julien says,
"This is exactly how a chef thinks. They strip away the fluff and focus on what matters."
And that's exactly how we like our investments. Straightforward, proven, and affordable, even if it is a little cheesy. What do you think? I know we describe it as addictive, but what do you think the allure is with individual stock picking? We hope you enjoyed this episode of Cashing Out the Podcast. To see more videos like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel and be sure to turn on your notifications. To get your copy of Cashing Out the Book, visit Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore, or download the audiobook on Audible.